Swann, there's obviously been, it feels like it changes every day as per normal, and it feels like there's hubs, there's dates being pushed back. What's the latest you've heard on where we're at with regards to a potential Southeast Queensland hub and maybe a return to training for the next few weeks?
Yeah, the hub thing's interesting. I know Mark Evans at the Suns pushed up, down at the Gold Coast, and we certainly have been quietly lobbying for us to be part of that as well, because I think the hub's part of the criteria is that that there's two stadiums that you can play at, and obviously the Gabba and Metricon are two AFL standard grounds which tick that box. And I think one of the things, because we're talking probably around June, July when we start, the weather up here is the best in Australia at that time of year, so it makes sense for us to be in the mix. Obviously, there's a lot of other states, trying to lobby for that. But I think for us, we think it's we've got accommodation, we've got the best facilities, we've got the best weather, we've got two great grounds that you can play footy on every night. So we think we'd be in the mix, but the AFL will let us know. I think in early May is the latest information that I've got.
Right. Are you prepared to allow your players to move interstate if it comes to that?
Yeah. Look, we're very much a club. Anytime, anywhere. We'll play wherever you have to. I mean, we're really mindful and hopeful that we need to get all those games away that the AFL have talked about. And if we have to go somewhere else, that's fine. Be perfect if we could stay in Brisbane, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're of a mind that we want to help the code get the games away, so we'll play anywhere, anytime.
Greg, Braden Ingram from Channel 9 Melbourne. In terms of the hubs, I know it's still early stages, but in terms of details, do you know how many teams you might be expected to house, or any of the other finer details at this stage?
No, not at this stage. I mean, I think the preferred model was to break it up maybe into 3 lots of 6, or something along those lines. I don't think. Look, I don't know this, but I'm assuming one hub of 18 is probably a bit too hard. Whereas I think if you break it up, that's probably more logical. And even from a safety and health point of view, it just spreads the risk a little bit. But again, that's something that the AFL's having to look at. And as I said, we'll hopefully have some information about that in the next couple of weeks.
Obviously, there's advantages to hosting a hub. I suppose there's no perfect scenario in this. Is that there's always going to be teams that might be better off, and teams that have to travel and maybe can't or can bring their families. It's an added issue, but there's not much you can do about that, is there?
No, not really. I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, a lot. As interstate clubs, we travel every second week anyway. So, but it's whether you're staying. How long you're staying somewhere, that'll be the question, whether you're there for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month, and we'll know more about that. But yeah, someone's going to be disadvantaged. I mean, whichever state that they choose to stay in. I mean, I know, WA's put their hand up, South Australia. So there's a lot of states that have put their hand up, and we'll just wait and see where that goes. But I wouldn't think there'd be any more than 3 hubs. There may well be 2. I think it's unlikely that there'd be 1 in the initial stages, but as I said, I'm only speculating. I don't know that for sure. All I do know is it would be good to stay here, because I know for you, Braden, in Melbourne, it's a bit chilly, but it's 27, 28 here, and it has been every day for about a month, so it's a pretty good spot to play footy.
In terms of funding for the hubs, I know WA Premier has said that he wouldn't want to be chipping in any taxpayer funds. Do you know, given the climate and how tight money is already, how that might work?
Oh, I think again, it's something for head office, but I'd be pretty sure that we'll be looking to self-fund. I mean, as you just said, everyone's doing it tough, governments included. So I think most of the things that we're going to do from here on in, we'll do for ourselves. And I mean, even some of the testing and the things that the clubs are going to have to do, we'll do that ourselves. We'll self-fund. We don't want to impose onto the health system. We'll try and do a whole lot of things like that ourselves. So maybe getting test kits and things like that. We'll try and do that ourselves, so that we're not a burden on the health system.
Swanny, how do you make sure players, when this system gets up and running, how do you make sure that they abide by all the rules? We've already seen in the NRL some guys going camping and some situations with players getting done, or one player getting done for drink driving, obviously the Bulldogs. It's pretty hard to keep an eye on them all the time.
Yeah, it is. Look, I think the encouragement is that, touch wood, no one's tested positive so far. So obviously they've been abiding by the rules. I mean, in Queensland yesterday, there was a little bit of a little bit more leniency with regards to being able to go to the park and hiking and shopping and things like that. So we've just eased the restrictions a little bit here. So as we get closer to the start, hopefully there's some more easing of that, and that'll make it a bit easier to sort of function day to day. I mean, I think the big ones for the whole code is when you can start to train together, what that looks like. But I think the protocols and everything else for the clubs and the players to maintain social distancing, washing of the hands and all that, that'll keep going forever almost, I think. So I don't think that's going to be a stretch. You're right, you can't watch everyone all the time, but I think as a code, we've been pretty good at, abiding by the rules, and I think, we'll continue to do so. And I think everybody will understand that, we need to do that to keep the season going, because I think one of the things that we're certainly mindful of is that once we start, we don't want to stop. We want to keep the season going. We don't want to play 4 games and have to stop and, because of an issue or whatever. So I think, and that's probably one of the reasons that, we're looking to take our time a little bit about when we come back, because I think that is a major consideration. We want to make sure that all our ducks are in a row and that we get to play a season hopefully without further interruptions. I mean, I know we're a little bit in the lap of the gods there with, hopefully the curve stays flat and all that sort of stuff. But if there's a spike, then obviously governments will have to do something different. But we want to try and make sure that we can actually continue to play once we start.
Have they given you any idea of the biosecurity arrangements, whether it be temperature checks, blood testing, that sort of
thing? Not quite. I think there'll be a bit of everything. I think, it'll be you'll be tested within an inch of your life. I think you'll be you won't be able to train or do anything until you've had tests. I mean, there's all sorts of tests, and I think there's some, even just reading as in the general public, there's tests where you can get your blood taken and 15 minutes later you'll know one way or the other. There's the temperature checks, there's all those things. So I'm sure the experts will give us more detail about that when we start, but I'm sure we'll be well covered there.
Between now and that May 11 date, in terms of the hub, is it a case of yourself and maybe the Gold Coast putting in a proposal, or is it more like you've put in your case and now the AFL will come in and do their due diligence and make a call above all else?
Yeah, it's the latter. I think the AFL have been talking to all the state governments, all their medical people. We've had some, as I said, behind the scenes chats about how it could work up here. Now really it's up to the AFL to make that call. Yep.
Do you know if potentially some of the Commonwealth Games facilities could come in handy on the Gold Coast?
Oh, look, I think there's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I know there's been talk of the Royal Pines, which is literally across the road. It's got a golf course, it's got a massive gym, it's got a pool, it's got lots of rooms. But there's a lot of facilities there. There's a lot of facilities in Brisbane along the same lines. We've got a lot of training grounds. I talked about Metricon and the Gabba, but we've got obviously strong local clubs that have good training facilities. So if there were half a dozen clubs up here, you could easily accommodate them. That part's I think that part gets a tick. So we'll just, as I said before, we'll just see what the AFL decide.
How have the players been handling lockdown so far? Is everyone in good health and everyone's happy with the way it's all going?
Yeah, they're all pretty good. Most are filtering back. We've said that initially, or we didn't put a timeline on it, but the players themselves have sort of chosen to get back by the end of this month. There's a few came back last week. I know there's a few coming back this week. So we'll have pretty much most of them back. They've had little gym sessions where they came and raided our gym and set their own gyms up, and I think they've been doing a little bit of working out in pairs, and I've seen on various news channels some of the boys, with their homemade gyms and things. So, yeah, I think they're pretty fit. We've kept obviously in close contact with them, and I think from our point of view, it looks like we'd be pretty hopeful that they'd come back fit. I mean, they did in the off season, so there's no reason they wouldn't keep that up. They're a good group. They're disciplined, so I think we'd be confident that they'll come back fit and ready to go whenever that is.
Have you done any work around managing their mental health while not being able to leave home very much?
Yeah, we do. We have, as I said, we've had a lot of chats about those sort of things. Our psych's been touching base with players as well. So far, there's no red flags, but that's some of them have got into a pretty good routine. Some of them are actually working. There's a few guys who are doing part-time work. There's a few tradies that have dusted off their old toolkit and started doing some stuff. And so everyone's a little bit different. There's a couple of guys working in call centres. I think there's one or two that are stacking shelves. So it depends. Some guys are happy to have the break. Others are want to do something. So there's a mixture there. But we've been we've been on top of that just to make sure that everyone's doing what they need to do, and they're in a good headspace.
Greg, will there come a stage where you'll need to sit down with the whole playing group and staff and make sure that if any of them have any objections, if you have to go interstate for a hub or even to just playing in this environment, that they know they can put their hand up and say that they're unwilling to do so? How would that work?
Oh yeah, look, that's the same for anything. I mean, one of the things, we're big on family in this place. We've had players miss games, miss training for various family reasons. We always prioritise that. So if somebody came along and said that, for whatever reason, whether it's family or health or just not being, perhaps they're anxious about it, then if they don't want to play, there's no issue with that. I mean, I think one of the things that's going to come out of this is that because the time frame will be, it's very condensed, that it's really going to be up to your squad as to how successful you are for the season. I think it's going to be a real test of everybody's depth. And so if people drop out, and whether for whatever reason, whether it's an injury, whether it's, because if you're going to be playing, games in quick succession, 5-day breaks and, 3-4 games in 2 or 3 weeks, then, you're going to have some attrition. So I think your squad's going to be really important, and we're really happy with the depth that we've got. So if people don't want to play or they're injured, then it's next man up, and we'll go from there. So that's sort of been the way we've approached it.